I think the fact that costs went up is a short-term thing, because eventually prices of gold are going to go way up, and it's going to more than offset the increase in costs. Investors don't think that. If you look at investor expectations for the price of gold 2 or 3 years in the future, they still think gold's going to be around 1,800. In other words, they think there's going to be no gain really in the price of gold. Well, that's crazy. Gold prices are going to go much higher. It's just that investors don't understand that. In fact, as far as investors are concerned, all news is bad news when it comes to gold. And I've talked about this, how gold stocks are the ironic victims of inflation. Inflation is driving up the cost of mining, but because investors don't think inflation is a problem, because they think the Fed is going to solve it, they are not baking that inflation into the gold price. And so the price of gold, at least for now, is not keeping pace with the cost of mining it. In fact, whenever we get stronger economic data, investors think, well, the Fed's going to be more aggressive and these rate hikes are going to kill inflation. So no reason to buy gold, even less reason to buy gold stocks. On the other hand, when we get weak economic data, investors think, well, recession is going to kill inflation. After all, inflation is caused by a strong economy, and when the economy weakens, inflation goes away. So there's no reason to buy gold when recession is going to kill inflation. So investors have got it wrong twice. Inflation is not going to get killed by the Fed, and it's not going to get killed by recession. It's the economy that's going to get killed. It's going to die as a result of the combination of rate hikes and inflation. And it's not the real economy that's dying, it's this bubble economy that's dying. But inflation is not only going to live on, it's actually going to get stronger. And that's why gold, and especially these gold mining stocks, are an incredible bargain right now. You know, when I talk about Newmont Mining, I'm not making a specific recommendation to buy that stock, because I don't give individual stock recommendations on the podcast for FINRA reasons. I discuss stocks as an example. But one recommendation that I do make is my mutual fund, the Euro Pacific Gold Fund. And I think the best way for my audience to participate in what I believe is going to be an incredible bull market in mining stocks is through the Euro Pacific Gold Fund managed by Adrian Day. It's better to let Adrian Day pick your stocks for you rather than picking them yourself. I think he's the best stock picker in the mining sector. He's certainly been doing it the longest. Very few people have stuck it out as long as he did. So he knows these companies, he knows the management teams, he knows the projects, and maybe even more important than knowing which stocks to buy, it's which stocks not to buy. Because that's where a lot of people lose money in the junior mining sector, is they buy the wrong stocks and they lose a bunch of money, even though the gold price goes up and the sector goes up. So I think Adrian will minimize the chances of that happening. Now, of course, don't buy my gold fund unless you have a high risk tolerance. Mining stocks are not for the faint of heart. This is risky business. So don't put any money into the Euro Pacific Gold Fund that you're not prepared to lose. Now, I don't think the fund is going to go to zero. That's a very low probability. These mining stocks are not going to go bankrupt, but there is a high possibility that you could lose money, and you could lose money very quickly. But the trade-off is that you can also make money very quickly. The key is to relate the downside risk to the upside potential. And that's where I think the story is incredible, because I think the upside potential, especially from here, is so enormous that it dwarfs the downside risk. And so if you are a speculator, this is the time to really place a big bet, because the upside is so skewed relative to the downside that this is one of those times where your big bets can really pay off. And therefore, if you have the tolerance, you should take advantage of the opportunity.